The horse fell down in the middle of the street. Its legs gave out and it crashed into the dirt. Dust flew up around its body. The sound was terrible. Everyone stopped and stared. It was noon. The sun was burning hot overhead. There was no wind. No clouds. Just heat pressing down on everything. The main street of Ridgefield was packed with people. It was market day. Women carried baskets. Children ran between the buildings. Men stood outside the saloon talking business. Now they all stood still. 50 people made a circle around the fallen horse. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They just watched. The horse was brown with white spots. It was breathing fast, too fast. Its sides went in and out like a broken pump. Sweat covered its body. The sweat was mixed with blood. There were cuts on its back, cuts on its legs, old scars and new wounds. The horse's ribs showed through its skin. Every bone could be counted. Its eyes were white with fear. Foam dripped from its mouth onto the ground. Standing over the horse was a big man. His name was Dutch Carmichael. Everyone in town knew him. He owned the freight company. He moved all the cargo between towns, mining equipment, food supplies, mail. Everything went through Dutch. Was angry. His face was red. His shirt was soaked with sweat. He held a whip in his right hand. The leather was dark with use. He had been hitting the horse for 10 minutes. Maybe longer. The horse had stopped pulling his wagon. The wagon was loaded too heavy. It had equipment and grain sacks piled high. Too much weight for one horse. Too much for any horse. Dutch kicked dirt at the horse's face. He yelled curse words. The horse tried to stand up. Its front legs pushed against the ground. But they were shaking too much. The horse fell back down. Its head hit the dirt hard. A woman in the crowd put her hand over her mouth. A little girl started to cry. Her mother picked her up and turned away, but most people just watched. Their faces showed nothing. No anger, no sadness, just blank stares. They were afraid. Everyone knew Dutch's temper. Last month he fired a worker for arguing with him. The man couldn't find work anywhere after that. Dutch made sure of it. The town needed Dutch's business. Without his freight wagons, supplies wouldn't arrive. Crops wouldn't get to market. People would lose money. So they watched in silence. The horse's breathing got worse. Shorter. Faster. It was dying. Anyone could see that. Its body was shutting down from heat and exhaustion and pain. The horse had been working since before sunrise. 12 hours in the burning sun. No water, no rest. Just pulling heavy loads up mountain trails. The horse's neck had fresh whip marks. Blood ran down in thin lines. One of its ears was torn. An old injury from being pulled by chains. Its hooves were cracked and bleeding. No horseshoes. Just bare feet on sharp rocks all day. A young boy near the front of the crowd took a step forward. His father grabbed his arm fast. The father shook his head. No, stay back. The boy's face showed confusion. Why wasn't anyone helping? His father pulled him back into the crowd. Dutch raised the whip again. It whistled through the air. The leather cracked across the horse's shoulder. The horse flinched but didn't make a sound. It had no strength left even to cry out. Its eyes started to close. The light in them was fading. Some people in the crowd turned their backs. They walked away slowly. Others kept staring. They looked like they wanted to help, but couldn't make their feet move. Fear kept them frozen. The sheriff's office was right down the street, just 2 buildings away. But nobody called for him. Nobody ran to get help. They all knew the sheriff wouldn't come. He and Dutch were friends. They played cards together every Friday night. The sheriff needed Dutch's money for his campaigns. He looked the other way when Dutch broke rules. The horse lay completely still now. Only its chest moved, up and down, up and down. Each breath was smaller than the last.
Dutch wiped sweat from his forehead. He looked at the crowd. "Show's over," he said. "Get back to your business." His voice was rough from yelling. Nobody moved. Dutch spit tobacco juice on the ground near the horse's head. "Stupid animal," he muttered. Cost me a whole day's work. He raised his boot. He was going to kick the horse in the ribs, make it stand up or die trying. Then a voice rang out across the street. That's enough. Everyone turned to look. The voice was clear and strong. It didn't shake. It didn't hesitate. It belonged to a woman. She stood at the edge of the crowd. Nobody recognized her. She wasn't from Ridgefield. She wore dusty trail clothes, brown pants, a faded shirt, a wide hat that shaded her face. She looked like she had been riding for days. Her boots were worn. Her hands were calloused and strong. She pushed through the crowd. People stepped aside to let her pass. She walked straight toward Dutch and the dying horse. Her steps were steady. Her eyes never left Dutch's face. Dutch turned to face her. He looked her up and down. Then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who thought he was in control. A man who had never lost a fight. "This ain't your business, lady," Dutch said. He held the whip loose in his hand, ready to use it. "Move along." The woman stopped 3 feet away from him. She looked him right in the eyes. She didn't blink. She didn't step back. "I'm making it my business," she said. Part 2. The woman stared at Dutch. Dutch stared back. The air between them felt electric. Huh. Dangerous. The crowd held their breath. Nobody had ever stood up to Dutch Carmichael like this. Not in public. Not in front of half the town. Dutch's smile faded. His jaw tightened. He spit more tobacco juice. This time it landed near the woman's boots. She didn't look down. Didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed locked on his face. "You got a death wish?" Dutch asked. His voice was low, threatening. He took a step closer to her. He was a big man, tall and heavy. He used his size to scare people. It always worked. Not this time. The woman didn't move back. She stood her ground. "That horse is dying," she said. Her voice was calm, steady. "You're killing it. And everyone here is watching you do it." Dutch laughed. It was a harsh sound. "Mean. This is my horse. I paid good money for it. I'll do whatever I want with it." "No," the woman said. "You won't." She reached in her vest. Slow and careful, she pulled out a folded paper. She held it up so Dutch could see. So everyone could see. The paper had an official seal on it. Red wax. Government stamps. "My name is Catherine Wade," she said loudly. Her voice carried across the silent street. "I'm a livestock inspector for the territorial government. I have the legal authority to seize any animal being subjected to cruelty." The crowd stirred. People whispered to each other. A livestock inspector. That was real authority, not just some drifter passing through. This woman had power. Legal power. Dutch's face turned red, then purple. His hands formed fists. "You can't take my property," he said through gritted teeth. "Yes," Catherine said. "I can, and I will." She moved past him. Dutch reached out to grab her arm, but she was faster. She stepped aside smoothly. Dutch stumbled forward. The whip fell from his hand onto the ground. Catherine knelt beside the horse. She placed her hand on its neck gently. So gently. The horse's eye rolled toward her. It was still alive. Barely. Catherine felt for its pulse. The heartbeat was fast and weak. Irregular. The horse was in shock. Its body was shutting down. She ran her hands over the horse's body, checking, examining. Every rib showed through the skin. The horse was starving. Its coat was dull and patchy. There were infected wounds on its back, old scars layered over new cuts. The horse's hooves were cracked and bleeding. No shoes, just bare feet worn down and nothing. Catherine's jaw clenched. Her eyes got hard. She stood up and faced Dutch again. "This horse belonged to the Maxwell ranch," she said. Her voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "I recognized the brand on its shoulder. That's Grace Maxwell's brand." The crowd reacted immediately. People gasped. Heads turned. Voices rose in surprise. Everyone knew the Maxwells. They had been good people, honest ranchers. They lost everything last year when the bank changed owners. The new bank called in all their loans early. The Maxwells couldn't pay. They lost their land, lost their home, lost everything. Grace Maxwell had to sell her horses to pay the debts. Everyone remembered that day. Grace had cried when the horses were taken away. She had raised them from foals, trained them herself, loved them like family. "You bought this horse at the auction 3 months ago," Catherine continued. Grace Maxwell's personal mount. She begged the buyers to take care of it, to not work it too hard. This horse is 15 years old. It has an old injury in its left front leg. Grace told everyone about it. She said the horse needed light work only. Gentle handling. Catherine pointed at the collapsed animal. Look at it now. Look what you've done. Dutch's face was dark with rage. That's business, he said. I bought it. It's mine. The law says so. The law also says you can't torture animals. Catherine shot back. You've been working this horse 12 hours a day. No water. No rest. Load's too heavy for any animal. You've beaten it until it can't stand. That's cruelty. That's illegal. She turned to face the crowd. How many of you saw him beating this horse today? How many watched him do it? People shifted uncomfortably. They looked at their feet, at the buildings, at the sky, anywhere but at Catherine, anywhere but at the dying horse. You all saw it, Catherine said. Her voice was hard now, angry, every one of you, and nobody did anything. You stood here and watched, in front of your children, in front of your church. You just watched. A woman in the crowd started crying. An old man shook his head slowly. Shame spread across faces like a wave. They knew she was right. They had known it was wrong. But fear had kept them silent. Where's your sheriff? Catherine demanded. Right here. A man stepped forward from the crowd. He wore a badge on his vest. Sheriff Tom Miller. He was in his 50s. Gray hair. Tired eyes. He had been standing there the whole time. Watching. Doing nothing. Catherine stared at him. You saw this happening? The sheriff looked uncomfortable. Well now, miss. It's complicated. Dutch here runs an important business. We can't just what? Catherine interrupted. Can't just enforce the law. Can't just stop a man from killing an animal in the middle of town. The sheriff had no answer. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Dutch saw his chance. Tom, you gonna let this woman tell us what to do? She's not even from here. This is our town. Our business. The sheriff looked between Dutch and Catherine. He was stuck. He knew Dutch was wrong. But Dutch had money, power, influence. The sheriff needed Dutch's support to keep his job. Catherine saw him hesitating. She pulled out another paper from her vest. Sheriff Miller, this is a federal warrant. It gives me authority to inspect livestock operations in this territory. It also requires local law enforcement to assist me. That means you. If you refuse, I'll file a report with the territorial governor. You'll lose your badge. The sheriff's face went pale. The federal government. The governor. That was bigger than Dutch. Bigger than local politics. That could end his career. Two men stepped forward from the crowd. They were ranch hands. Workers. Not rich. Not powerful. Just regular men who had watched long enough. They grabbed Dutch by the arms. Held it back. That's enough, Dutch. One of them said quietly. You've done enough damage. Dutch struggled, but the men held firm. More people moved forward. The crowd was changing. Fear was turning into anger. Shame was turning into action. Catherine knelt beside the horse again. She poured water from her canteen over its muzzle. The horse's tongue moved. It tried to drink. Come on, girl, Catherine whispered. Stay with me. Just a little longer. Catherine kept pouring water slowly over the horse's mouth. Small amounts. Not too much at once. Too much water too fast could kill a horse in this condition. She knew that. She had seen it before. The horse's tongue moved again. It licked at the water. Its eye opened wider. There was a spark there. A tiny bit of life still fighting. That's it, Catherine said softly. That's it, girl. Keep fighting. She looked up at the crowd. I need help. Someone bring more water. And a blanket. Something to shade her from the sun. For a moment, nobody moved. Then a woman ran toward the general store. She came back with a bucket of water and a large piece of canvas. A man took off his coat and laid it over the horse's back. Another person brought a feed sack filled with hay. People were waking up, coming alive. Shame was pushing them into action. They had stood silent too long. Now they wanted to help, needed help. Catherine smiled slightly. Thank you, she said. She ran her hands along the horse's legs. Testing, checking. The left front leg was swollen, hot to the touch, an old injury that had never healed right. The horse flinched when Catherine touched it, but the leg wasn't broken. That was good. Can she stand? Someone in the crowd asked. I don't know, Catherine said honestly, but we have to try. She positioned herself at the horse's shoulder. She placed her hands under its chest. Easy now, she said. I'm going to help you. Don't be scared. The horse's ear flickered toward her voice. Catherine pushed gently, encouraging, supporting. The horse's front legs pushed against the ground. They shook badly. The muscles were exhausted, damaged, but the horse was trying. Come on, Catherine said. You can do this. The horse's back legs scraped in the dirt. It was gathering strength, gathering will. The animal wanted to live. It wanted to stand. After everything Dutch had done to it, the horse still wanted to survive. With a grunt of effort, the horse got its front legs under its body. Catherine supported its weight. The horse pushed with its back legs. Slowly, painfully, it rose. Its body shook like a leaf in the wind. But it was standing. The crowd gasped. Then someone started clapping. Others joined in. Applause filled the street. It wasn't happy clapping. It was relief. Respect. They were applauding the horse's courage. Its will to live. Catherine kept her hands on the horse's neck, steadying it. The horse stood with its head down, breathing hard, but it was on its feet, alive. Water, Catherine said. Bring the trough. Several men lifted the water trough from outside the saloon. They carried it over and set it down in front of the horse. Catherine led the horse forward one step at a time. The horse limped badly on its left front leg. Each step looked painful, but it moved. When the horse reached the trough, it drank. Small sips at first, then longer drinks. Catherine let it drink for a few seconds, then pulled its head up. Not too much, she said. Rest. Then more. She counted to 30 in her head, then let the horse drink again. This way the water wouldn't make it sick, wouldn't cause more damage to its stress system. Behind her, Dutch was yelling. The two ranch hands still held his arms. You can't do this, Dutch shouted. That's my property. I'll sue. I'll have all your jobs. Tom, tell them. Sheriff Miller stood with his arms crossed. He looked tired, old, like he had aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. Dutch, he said quietly. Stop talking. What? Dutch couldn't believe it. Tom, we're friends. We've known each other for 20 years. That's why I'm telling you to stop talking, the sheriff said. Every word you say is making this worse. He turned to Catherine. What happens now? Catherine kept her attention on the horse, but she answered. I'm seizing this animal under territorial law. Dutch Carmichael will face charges for animal cruelty. He'll pay fines, probably lose his freight license for a period of time. You can't do this to me, Dutch screamed. His face was purple. Veins stood out on his neck. I'm important. This town needs me. No, Catherine said. She turned to face him. Her voice was cold, hard as iron. This town needs to remember that money doesn't put you above the law. Power doesn't give you the right to torture living things. She walked toward Dutch, stopped right in front of him. You bought this horse for $50 at auction. You worked it nearly to death in 3 months. You got your money's worth. Now you pay the price. Dutch spit at her feet. Who do you think you are? I told you, Catherine said. I'm the person who said enough. I'm the person who actually did something instead of just watching. She looked past Dutch at the crowd. All of you watched. For 10 minutes or more. You watched him beat a dying horse. Your children watched. What did that teach them? That cruelty is acceptable if the cruel person has money? That staying silent is safe? People in the crowd looked ashamed. Guilty. They knew she was right. A woman started crying. A man took off his hat and held it against his chest. The young boy who had tried to step forward earlier looked at his father with questions in his eyes. Catherine's voice got softer, but no less powerful. I know you were afraid. I know Dutch has power here. But that's exactly when you need courage most. When it's scary, when it costs something, that's when standing up matters. She turned back to the horse, stroked its neck. This animal couldn't speak, couldn't defend itself, couldn't run away. It depended on humans to show mercy, to show kindness. And one man showed it only cruelty. The horse nuzzled against Catherine's shoulder, weak, tired, but alive, and maybe sensing that it was finally safe. Sheriff Miller cleared his throat. Dutch Carmichael, you're under arrest for animal cruelty. You have the right to. I know my rights. Dutch interrupted. This isn't over. I'll fight this. I have lawyers. That's your choice, the sheriff said. He took out handcuffs. The two ranch hands released Dutch's arms. The sheriff cuffed Dutch's wrists behind his back. But right now you're coming with me." As the sheriff led Dutch away, the man kept yelling, threatening, making promises of revenge. But his voice got smaller, weaker, less important. The crowd watched him go in silence. Catherine stayed with the horse. She gave it more water, checked its wounds again. The horse was stable, not healthy, not healed, but stable. It would survive. A woman approached Catherine carefully. "Miss Wade, what will happen to the horse now?" Catherine looked up. "I'm taking her out of here. Somewhere she can heal. Somewhere safe." "Where?" the woman asked. Catherine smiled. It was the first real smile she'd shown since arriving. "I'm taking her home." Catherine spent the rest of the day with the horse. She moved it to the stable behind the general store. The stable owner, an old man named Henry, gave her a clean stall with fresh hay. He didn't ask for payment. He just wanted to help. "Never liked how Dutch treated his animals," Henry said. "He brought a bucket of warm water and clean rags. Should have said something sooner. We all should have." Catherine nodded. "You're helping now. That's what matters." She washed the horse's wounds carefully. The cuts on its back were deep. Some were infected. She cleaned them with soap and water. The horse flinched and trembled, but didn't try to move away. It seemed to understand that Catherine was helping, not hurting. "You've been through hell, haven't you?" Catherine said softly. She applied medicine to the wounds, wrapped the worst ones with clean bandages. "But you're strong, stronger than Dutch ever knew." People came to the stable throughout the day. They brought things: a bag of oats, an apple, a soft brush for the horse's coat. A woman brought a jar of healing salve her grandmother used to make. "For the cuts," she said quietly. She wouldn't look Catherine in the eye. Too much shame. By evening, the horse looked better. Not good, but better. It had eaten a little, drunk plenty of water. The shaking had stopped. Its breathing was more normal. The spark in its eye was brighter. Catherine sat on a hay bale, watching the horse. Her mind was working, planning. The Maxwell ranch was 20 miles away, too far for the horse to walk in its condition. She would need a wagon, a gentle wagon with soft padding, and the journey would need to be slow, very slow. Sheriff Miller came to the stable just before sunset. He looked tired, older than his years. "Dutch is locked up," he said. "He's still yelling, still threatening everyone. His lawyer is coming tomorrow from Silver City." "Let him yell," Catherine said. "The evidence is clear. Half the town witnessed what he did." The sheriff nodded. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I should have stopped him. Before today, I knew he was rough with his animals. I knew, and I did nothing." Catherine looked at him. "Why didn't you?" The sheriff sighed. He sat down on another hay bale. "Dutch contributes to my campaign. He throws money at every election. He makes sure I win. I told myself I needed to keep my job to help the town. But really, I was just scared. Scared of losing power, losing respect. And now?" Catherine asked. "Now I'm more scared of looking in the mirror," the sheriff said. "My grandson was in that crowd today. He's 7 years old. He watched me do nothing while a man tortured an animal. What did I teach him?" Catherine didn't answer. She let the silence sit. Sometimes silence said more than words. "I'm not running for sheriff next election," Miller said finally. "I'm done. This town deserves better." He stood up and walked to the stall. He looked at the horse. "Does Grace Maxwell know about her horse?" "Not yet," Catherine said. "I'll tell her tomorrow, when I bring the horse home." The sheriff nodded slowly. "Grace loved this horse, raised it from a baby. She called it Willow. Said it was graceful like a willow tree when it ran. After she lost the ranch, she asked me to check on her horses, make sure they were okay. I promised I would." His voice cracked. "I never did. I broke my promise to her. I let Dutch work Willow to death, and I did nothing." Catherine stood. She walked over to the sheriff. "Tomorrow, you can help me take Willow home. You can apologize to Grace yourself. You can keep your promise. Late but still kept." The sheriff looked at her with wet eyes. "You think she'll forgive me?" "I don't know," Catherine said honestly. "But asking is a start." That night, Catherine slept in the stable. She made a bed of hay bales and blankets. She wanted to stay close to Willow. Watch for any problems. Make sure the horse kept improving. Around midnight, she woke to the sound of movement. Willow was standing at the stall door, looking at her. The horse's ears were forward, alert. Its eyes were clear. Catherine got up and walked over. She stroked Willow's nose. "Can't sleep either?" she said softly. The horse leaned into her touch. Catherine felt something loosen in her chest, a tightness she'd been carrying. This horse had survived. Against all odds. Despite all cruelty. It had survived. Tomorrow you go home, Catherine whispered. Tomorrow you see Grace again. She never forgot you. Never stopped loving you. She told me that herself 6 months ago when I met her. Catherine had met Grace Maxwell while inspecting ranches in the territory. Grace had lost her land, but she was working as a cook at a hotel in Pine Ridge. When Catherine mentioned she'd be passing through Ridgefield, Grace had begged her to check on her horses. Especially Willow. Please, Grace had said. I know it's been months. I know they're not mine anymore. But I need to know they're okay. I need to know Willow is okay. Catherine had promised. And when she rode into Ridgefield that morning and saw Dutch beating a horse in the street, she had recognized the brand immediately. Grace's brand. And then she'd seen the horse's face. The same face Grace had shown her in a photograph. Older, scarred, broken, but the same horse. Willow. Catherine had kept her promise. Maybe not the way she'd planned, but she kept it. Grace cries every night, Catherine told the horse. She told me that. She cries because she had to sell you. Because she couldn't protect you. She thinks you hate her. She thinks you suffered because of her. Willow's ears flickered at the sound of Grace's name. Or maybe Catherine imagined it. But she chose to believe the horse remembered. Chose to believe the bond between Grace and Willow hadn't been broken by time or distance or pain. Tomorrow, Catherine said again. Tomorrow, everything changes. The next morning, Henry helped Catherine prepare a wagon. They filled it with hay and blankets, made it as soft as possible. 4 men from town volunteered to help. They lifted Willow carefully into the wagon. The horse cooperated, stood still, let them work. Sheriff Miller arrived on horseback. I'm coming with you, he said. If you'll have me. Catherine nodded. Let's go bring Willow home. The wagon rolled slowly out of town. Catherine drove. The sheriff rode alongside. Behind them, people watched from the street. They waved. Some called out goodbyes. Good luck. We're sorry. The town was changing. Catherine could feel it. One act of courage had sparked something. Awakened something. Maybe they would remember this day. Maybe they would do better next time. The wagon wheels creaked. The horse stood steady in the back. And ahead, 20 miles away, Grace Maxwell was about to get the greatest surprise of her life. 3 days passed. Catherine Wade rode slowly along the dirt road, leading to the Maxwell property. The horse walked beside her. Catherine held a lead rope loosely. The horse limped, but it was moving. That was something. That was everything. The sun was setting. Orange and pink light spread across the sky. The air was cooler now, easier to breathe. Catherine had taken the back roads. Quiet paths through the hills. She didn't want to rush. The horse needed time, needed rest. They stopped often. Catherine gave the horse water and grain. She cleaned its wounds twice a day, applied medicine, wrapped bandages. The horse was stronger now. Not healed, not healthy, but stronger. Its eyes were clearer. It ate better. The shaking had stopped. The fear was fading slowly. Catherine talked to it constantly. Her voice was soft, gentle. The horse's ears turned toward her whenever she spoke. Almost there, girl, Catherine said. Almost home. The Maxwell property appeared ahead. It wasn't much anymore. The big ranch house was gone. Sold to pay debts. Now there was only a small cabin. A barn that needed repairs. A few fenced pastures with grass growing wild. The place looked sad. Empty. Like something beautiful had died here. But smoke came from the cabin's chimney. Someone was home. Catherine guided the horse through the gate. Her heart beat faster. She had sent a telegram 2 days ago. A short message. Found your horse. Bringing her home. See, wait. She didn't know if Grace had received it. Didn't know what to expect. The cabin door opened. A woman stepped out. She was thin. Her clothes were worn and patched. Her hair was tied back simply. She looked older than she probably was. Hard times age people fast. This was Grace Maxwell. Grace stood on the porch. Her hand went to her mouth. Her eyes locked on the horse. For a long moment, she didn't move. Didn't breathe. She just stared. Then she ran. Down the porch steps. Across the yard. Her feet kicked up dust. She ran like her life depended on it. Like nothing else in the world mattered. Copper. Grace's voice broke. Copper. The horse's head lifted. Its ears shot forward. It made a sound. A low nickering noise. Recognition. Joy. The horse pulled toward Grace. Catherine let the lead rope go. Grace and the horse met in the middle of the yard. Grace threw her arms around the horse's neck. She pressed her face against its coat. Her whole body shook with crying. Deep sobs that came from somewhere old and hurt. The horse lowered its head, nuzzled against Grace's shoulder. Soft, gentle, like it was comforting her. Catherine stood back. She felt her own eyes getting wet. She blinked the tears away. This was what she had ridden for. This moment. This reunion. Grace cried for a long time. Her hands moved over the horse's body. Feeling. Checking. She found every wound. Every scar. Her face showed pain. Anger. Grief. "What did he do to you?" she whispered. "Oh, Copper. What did that monster do?" She looked up at Catherine. Tears ran down her face. "You're Catherine Wade." From a telegram. "Yes, ma'am," Catherine said. She stepped forward. "I'm a livestock inspector. I found Copper 3 days ago in Ridgefield. Dutch Carmichael was working her to death. I seized her under territorial law." Grace's face hardened. Dutch Carmichael. I should have known. He bought her at the auction. Lowest bidder. I begged him not to. Begged him to let someone else take her. He just laughed. "He won't hurt her again," Catherine said. "He's been arrested. Charged with animal cruelty. He lost his freight license. Lost most of his business contracts. The town turned against him after what happened." Grace looked surprised. The town? Ridgefield folks stood up to Dutch. Catherine shook her head. Not at first. They watched. Stayed silent. Too afraid. But after I intervened, they found their courage. Sometimes people just need someone to go first. Grace turned back to Copper. She ran her fingers through the horse's mane. "Is she going to be okay?" Catherine came closer. She examined the horse with grace. "She's hurt. Malnourished. That leg injury you told buyers about got worse. She'll never be sound for hard riding again. But with rest and care, she'll heal. She'll be comfortable. She'll have a good life. She'll have a best life," Grace said fiercely. "I'll make sure of it. Even if I have to work 3 jobs. Even if I have to sell everything else. She's staying with me. Forever." Catherine smiled. "I don't think you'll have to sell anything." She pulled an envelope from her saddlebag. The people of Ridgefield took up a collection. Once word spread about what happened, folks felt guilty, ashamed they didn't help sooner. They wanted to make it right. "This is for you. For Coppa's care." Grace opened the envelope. Her eyes went wide. There was money inside. A lot of money. More than she'd seen in a year. "I can't accept this," she said. But her voice had no strength behind the words. "You can," Catherine said. "And you will. Those people need to make amends. Let them. Use it to help Copper. Use it to rebuild." Grace looked at the money. At Copper. At Catherine. Fresh tears came. But these were different. Not sad tears. Something else. Hope maybe. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing her home. Thank you for standing up when no one else would." Catherine tipped her hat. "Just doing my job, ma'am." "No," Grace said firmly. "You did more than your job. You gave me back my family." The sun finished setting. Stars appeared in the darkening sky. Catherine helped Grace lead Copper into the barn. They gave the horse fresh hay, clean water, a soft bed of straw. Copper ate slowly, peacefully, safe at last. Grace made coffee. She and Catherine sat on the porch. They talked quietly about Coppa's past, about Grace's plans, about justice and courage and what it meant to do the right thing. "What happens now?" Grace asked. "For you, I mean." Catherine looked out at the dark hills. "I keep riding, keep inspecting. There are other animals out there, other Dutch Carmichaels. Someone has to stand up for creatures that can't speak for themselves." "You're doing important work," Grace said. "So are you," Catherine replied, "giving Copper a home, showing her that not all humans are cruel, that love still exists. That's important too." They sat in comfortable silence. Inside the barn, Copper made soft, contented sounds. The sound of an animal finally at peace. Catherine left the next morning. As she rode away, she looked back once. Grace stood in the pasture with Copper. The horse grazed nearby. Grace's hand rested on its back. Both of them were healing. Both of them were home. The story spread across the territory like wildfire. People talked about the woman who stood up to Dutch Carmichael. They talked about the town that watched in silence. They talked about a horse named Copper who survived hell and made it home. And in every town Catherine rode through after that, people remembered. They watched their animals more carefully. They spoke up sooner. They found courage in her example, because they learned that silence is approval, that fear is no excuse, that sometimes all it takes to end suffering is one voice saying enough, one person willing to stand when everyone else sits, one moment of courage that changes everything. Copper never ran fast again. Her leg kept her to a walk, but she lived 15 more years in that green pasture. Loved, protected, safe. She knew peace. She knew kindness. And she never forgot the woman who brought her home. Neither did Grace. Neither did Ridgefield. Neither did anyone who heard the story. Some endings aren't about justice. They're about mercy, about second chances, about remembering that every life has value. That cruelty should never be tolerated. That ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they choose courage over comfort. The horse almost died in public while they watched. But one voice ended it all, and that made all the difference.